Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to Red Hot Talk once again, episode 90. As you know that from the thumbnail, we are going to have a little bit of nerdy talk about lenses or our favorite lenses in 2025 so far, because we haven't quite finished this year yet.
No.
But it's going to be interesting because we're going to split into two parts. First of all, we're going to talk about something that we still think is really a good lens or even great lens for 2025. Things that we use constantly, we can't let go of. And then we're going to talk about some lenses that we tested or reviewed in 2025. Some of which I'm actually quite keen to show you guys because I personally think is pretty cool. But we're going to talk about some reasonings. But also at the same time, and I think we would like to hear from you guys and what sort of lenses you are using in 2025. Which one is your favorite? Whether it's new or old, it doesn't really matter because we want to get a little bit like general consensus here to see what sort of lenses you are using and whether everybody else agree that they are still great lenses in 2025. So people could still be using 15-year-old lenses. I still use some of the old lenses because I just think that they either have great characters or still a great performing lens, full stop. So so we get started, Rod. I think
I think, Jimmy, I think you probably reviewed 100 lenses this year or 1,000, and I think I've probably done one because I've been doing mostly cameras and software. So you might be the one leading with the new lenses for 2025 here.
Okay, well, if I start, maybe I will start with a lens that I personally think is really awesome, and so awesome to the point that I actually pay my own money and bought one. I have it right in front of me. All right, okay. It is the new Little White. That's the OM system, 50 to 200 millimeters f2.8. I reviewed this lens earlier this year, and I actually think that it's a phenomenal lens. The size and weight ratio is good, considering this covers a full frame equivalent of 100 to 400 millimeters with a constant 2.8 aperture. I know that many people talked about this and also left comments in my videos saying, "Oh, we got a 40 to 150. Why would you want to get the 50 to 200?" The simple fact is it's more modern. That's a start because the 40 to 150 f2.8 Pro is it is a good lens. It's still a great lens, but it's a little bit old. So I'm future-proofing myself a little bit, just in case if there is a slightly high-resolution cameras coming along in the next few years or high-performing lenses. This would definitely be fast enough and better and good enough for those upgrades in the future. And also at the same time, this is a white series lenses. You can see it from OM system because now they really separating their lens lineup now from they have the Pro series lenses, which are full metal, full weather seal lenses, but they also have the white lenses, which is this one here, and also the 150 to 400, which is the bigger one. And in terms of build quality, it is better. Weather sealing is better. Everything it seems to be a lot better. It's got more customization, more custom buttons. Generally, when I was using it side by side between the two lenses, I do find that this lens is significantly better in terms of feelings and the overall construction of it. So I personally think the new lens is definitely recommendable for those who are looking for an upgrade. But at the same time, I would say that if you are a hobbyist or amateur, you don't. I wouldn't say that you have to upgrade to this lens. Not if you've got the 40 to 150 2.8 Pro already. But if you're a professional, you're a high-end photographer, you need something that is fast. This is a good upgrade. And second point is obviously this has got a longer reach. Now, I think that's the main appeal to it. And you got even this 50 millimeters difference doesn't sound a lot, but you do see the difference. And in terms of compression, you do get a little bit more compression. That means that depending on the subject and the background distance, you get even more subject separation. So for wildlife or birders, you might find it's quite interesting as well. And for portrait, obviously, this could be a really good portrait lens, depending on what sort of thing you wanted to do with this. I think it's a great headshot lens, and if you really want to kind of utilize that focal length and the compression of it. So Rod, I don't think you have tried this lens, have you? And
I I haven't, Jimmy. It's I'd like to. So if you want to lend it to me for about 6 weeks, that'd be all right. I
yeah,
wouldn't object. No, I
not a
haven't. I
problem.
haven't. I imagine they're fairly hard to get hold of.
Yes,
But
apparently it's
but
still
but
sold out.
I have discovered I on a few times this year I've discovered something about landscape photography which
Right.
um which I hadn't really thought of. I always favour wide angle lenses, but
Yeah.
it turns out I got better shots with a longer focal range while
Oh.
I was out and about. I'm starting to use 200 and maybe longer focal lengths for landscapes because it completely changes the scale of your backdrop, which is,
Yes.
and it also helps you get the sky out of the frame on a lot of occasions
Yeah.
when the sky is really not very interesting or it's too bright. So I imagine you're using that lens mainly for portraits and event photography, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that kind of lens good for wildlife certainly, but I
Yep.
tend not to shoot wildlife. But it's interesting for landscapes as well, I think.
It it is. I mean, people may not necessarily associate this kind of long focal length lenses for landscape or cityscape, but in fact, if you know what you're kind of photographing, it can actually create a very interesting images by compressing the scene. You bring all the layers close to each other, you can get this kind of stacking effect. So, like, you got like layers of mountains, for instance, or layers of high rises or buildings. It certainly creates some kind of patterns, almost like pattern-like pictures that you don't normally get with a wider angle lens.
I think it gives you a lot more control over what's in the frame. If your background is a mess, it's very
Yep.
hard to take a good photograph. But with the longer focal length, you have much more
Mm.
control of what's in the background. And
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
landscapes as well, you made the background look quite epic. Whereas with the
Yep.
wide angle lens, it can look a bit small,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can already see some people reacting to what I just said now. So let's maybe first of all let's get John's comments in. So I got the 40 to 150. If everything happens to it, then and I would definitely get that one. Exactly. Like I said, the 40 to 150 is a great lens. I mean, I have no complaint whatsoever about that lens. It's still one of the, I would say, one of the most essential buy if you're a Michael Four Third user. That lens is so light and so small for what it is. It's a 2.8 constant aperture. Once again, it's really small, and for the reach it has, the only downside, I would say, the only complaint I ever had, perhaps some of you probably will agree to it, is the collapsible lens hood is not very rugged. So I've broken mine a couple of times and had it replaced, and I've heard similar thing to other people. So simply because I think that lens hood is it has too many parts in it. There's too many moving parts, and it was so when you knock it a little bit, you can knock the spring out, you can knock the turning dials out, and thing just falls apart. So it's not really a pro level lens hood. The lenses, but not so much about the lens hood. I mean, unfortunately, they never really redesigned the lens hood or make us a replacement like a fixed lens hood where you can't collapse it. So you can reverse kind of collapse it like this, so they can reverse store it, or this way. Yep.
I've
So, but
never
this
heard
is
of a
a very
lens hood
solid
with
lens hood.
never heard of a lens hood with moving parts.
Yeah, it's a collapsible one. The one you kind of twist and collapse it. So it's a very cool idea. I would say it's a really cool idea because it's just collapse it with one action, but it really isn't very reliable. But that really is the only complaint I have. But optical quality is amazing, and it works very well with all the Michael Four Third cameras because it doesn't have lens IS, so it works with any cameras with IBIS. So it works really well in Lumix cameras. It works well in Olympus cameras. It just like across the board. This new lens, on the other hand, it has lens IS. So if you got lens IS, that means it only works with Olympus and OM system cameras. So it doesn't work with Lumix if you want Sync IS, for instance,
Right.
dual IS. So on Lumix, you either use the lens IS but not the IBIS, or vice versa. Both the IBIS or no IS, lens IS.
So can I just confirm what you're saying there? are you saying that the lens IS on the new lens is not compatible with Lumix IBIS?
No.
Because I don't think that the lens IS on the old Lumix, what's it, the 35 to 100 was compatible with OM system body IBIS. So I don't think this is the first time it's happened. But it's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting. I don't really think you would use that new lens on a Lumix body, would you?
Well, apparently quite a few Lumix people have bought this lens.
Really?
I have heard people using it because it's you know, like I have tried and reviewed a couple of Lumix zoom lenses before, the 100 to 400 and also the 200
telephotos
and all the others. Yeah. So like they are big, heavy. So like this by comparison is quite a bit lighter compared to those lenses. So you know, like if people really want to save weight, and this is a good option, and having constant 2.8 aperture, that means you can really match that 200 millimeters 2.8 Panasonic Lumix Leica lens that they have, and is, you know, obviously slightly cheaper because is that lens is quite old now. This is a little bit newer, so it's calculate all the inflations, and this is a little bit more expensive. But you do get that reflexibility over that prime that Panasonic Lumix Leica has. At the same time, you know, the 100 to 400 has a variable aperture, so you don't have the same brightness of this lens either. So if you want to combine these two lenses into one, this is possibly a good buy. So similarly in the Olympus cam, we have the 100 to 400. People might have think about it, and then also have the 300 f4 prime. If you want to combine all of that, this lens can also serve that purpose as well. So potentially this lens can get rid of 2 or 3 lenses that you already have into one lighter and better option.
So I can see that why that would appeal to Lumix owners, but it's a shame about the lens IS, because I think the longer the focal length, the more you need lens stabilization, more so than in-body stabilization.
Well, if you look at the 40 to 150 f2.8 Pro, that hasn't got any lens IS, and even at 150, people seem to still be okay with the IBIS. If you got one of the later or high-end bodies, which has about 7.5 stop IBIS only stabilization, you are pretty fine with those focal lengths. Obviously, having a dual IS would get you an extra stop of stabilization. So when you're viewing something, it's definitely a bit more stable, so you don't feel as you know, if you've got motion sickness, you're not going to have that effect as bad as some other lenses. But overall, I think they're still very much usable if you just want to use IBIS only. So I wouldn't just turn on the lens IS and switch off IBIS. So I would rather use IBIS instead of the lens IS in that case.
Interesting.
Right, and also I've got another comment here. Hi Jimmy, hi Rod. Would a trade-in business model would work for OM system? Essentially, the customer would easily upgrade equipment while OM could resell, refurbish. Thoughts?
That'd be kind of like a lease hire thing. I think it would get quite complicated very quickly, because some items would deteriorate quicker than others. So I think it could be quite difficult for OM to manage. So a trading model, well, I guess you could say we'll just use MPB.
Well, in fact, I think some retailers already offering this kind of thing, right? You know, even Waste Photographic, they because they already have a used equipment department, so you basically they just use it as a credit against your new purchase. So if you want to send your old equipment there, they value it, you know, and if you give you a credit note, and just gonna use that credit note to buy whatever you want. It's certainly going to complicate things within OM, and OM is not necessarily a, you know, reseller as such.
I'm not sure they have the resources either, really.
No, they have a service department. Yeah, the service department is already overstretched, you know, by repairs and general maintenance. If you have that department looking after all of this used equipment, you can see potentially it's going to be a huge workload for them.
I think as well that inevitably when you trade in something that's been used, you will get a lot less for it than you paid. And it might be very difficult to make that any different financially to just trading in your gear in a regular way.
Yeah. And I
it
would
could
think,
end up in
like, if
just
you
the same
really
thing.
want the best value for your equipment, I think private sales still obviously it's high risks, but then still you're gonna
Yeah,
get more money from selling privately through some of the online auction sites and things like that. Still gonna get better deal than that, than just trading in, because a lot of the used site like MPB, they will take in your equipment, but they will be slightly lower than than you may want, because they have to cover the maintenance, the cleanup
of
procedures, all
course.
of
Yeah,
this stuff, and the warranty they're going to have to offer to subsequent buyers of that lens. So all of these have to be counted in the business model. So yeah, you may not actually get as much as you want.
yeah, yeah.
And let's see, just need to be careful. Had mine for 7 years. Oh, I think you're supposed to be relating to what I was saying about the hood, I guess.
By the hood. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Okay. Jeff here. It's a shame that the 40-152 point doesn't have the same lens hood style as the 300mm f4 Pro. That's exactly what I said, right? The 300 f4 Pro has that standard normal hood that you kind of screw and lock a hood instead of the collapsible hood. So that's definitely more rugged than the one that I just mentioned. I mean, I would have thought, because they still sell that lens, I would have thought when they rebrand the lens from Olympus to OM system, they will upgrade the hood, and then but they didn't. They just continue with that hood, and then yeah. But I guess it's another kind of thing they have to make, and it's another new production line just to make that hood for that lens, because there is currently, I don't think there's any other hood that will work with that lens. If they have a standard hood that will work like within 2 or 3 lenses, they might do that. But at the moment, unfortunately, there is no other lens hood that will fit the 40-150 f2.8 Pro. So to make a new replacement, new design, they're gonna have to set up a new production line just for that lens. And again, I don't think that it makes financial sense for them. So that's probably why they're sticking with that for now.
Yeah, at least it's not Canon where you have to buy them separately.
Well, that's true.
Not every time, but yeah,
Yeah. Right. Okay. And so let's get on with the next lens, shall we? And the next lens, I'm going to mention it, and because I know, Rod, you had a go at it as well, which is I personally think is a very interesting lens. I haven't got it with me. I actually got it in my bag somewhere. It's the Laowa 100. Is it a 180 or 150
180.
macro? 180 macro.
They made me send mine back. I can't believe it. There's ingratitude. So I haven't got it to show you, but you've got it there anyway. So yeah.
I mean, I personally think it's a great lens. Rob, what do you think about that lens?
I think it's terrific. I think it's less so for background, this is a full frame macro lens, mirrorless essentially. So you can get it in Sony E, Nikon Z, Canon RF, and L mount. But the Canon and L mount versions don't have autofocus. So I'm pretty sure that Canon would have said, no, you can make it, but you can't have AF because we make our own macro lenses. Not quite sure what's happening with the L mount. But I think the upshot is, I think the Sony and Nikon versions are much more appealing because I think with macro, I would always focus manually for actual macro photography.
Yeah.
But if you're going to use this lens outdoors as a telephoto, you really do want AF. So I think Lau was quite keen that people should think of it as being both a macro and a telephoto. But I think that only works if you've got AF, really.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
I think the image quality is just absolutely stellar. It is.
Yeah.
I can't fault it. Can't fault it.
It definitely is a very, very sharp lens, and and it's not that expensive. I can't remember exact retail price.
$500
now. Yeah, £500.
$500, I think.
I think it's value for money considering what it is. Also, it's fully weather sealed. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't see any bokeh fringing either, which is a big problem for macro and shallow depth of field. But I couldn't see any. There might be some. I didn't get it to produce any. But that's extremely difficult to fix in software. So that's good.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's a definitely very unique lens because it kind of had like a 2-stage focus mechanism. You know, the first half is AF. When you get to closer distances, you turn into MF. Right? It's a very weird design.
Do you know? I think I'd like to see that on more lenses. So the idea is that I think so. I think So this lens, for those who haven't seen it, it has a manual focus distance scale. It is, I think it's mechanical focusing. So you've got a huge travel. It's I would
Yes.
say it's somewhere up towards 270 degrees. So it's extremely precise. But when you get to infinity, there's just a very soft click past infinity and you go into autofocus, which seems to me a really smart way of doing stuff. It saves you fiddling around finding switches on a lens panel. And I've
Yeah.
also got plenty of lenses from, let's say, the more consumer end of the market, where you have to do that on the camera body, which is a real nuisance.
I mean,
So I
I
quite like
think
that.
I think overall, I mean, this is a very underrated lens that Laowa has produced in recent time, because all the other AF
Yeah,
lenses they have produced in the last 2-3 years has been relatively high profile when it comes to their marketing effort. You know, the 10 and the 12 2.8 lenses were, hugely promoted, and they were great lenses. Then the latest humongous lens, which I got it right here with me, the 200 millimeters f1.8, and that's a massive tele prime. And also very expensive for Laowa. And this lens is kind of somehow tucked underneath the carpet, right? No one kind of realized that or noticed this lens.
I think so, and I think the problem for Laowa is that people expect Chinese lenses to be really really cheap, but
Yeah,
Laowa lenses are actually really really good. So
yeah,
they end up kind of on a similar level to inexpensive own brand lenses. So you're paying 500 for this lens. You might be able to get an own brand macro lens for that, but it would be a shorter focal length.
yeah,
So it haven't got
yeah,
the same distance to your subject. And
no.
I'd be surprised if an own brand macro lens at that price approached that level of image quality.
Well,
And it's properly made as well. It's properly made.
the OM 90 millimeters macro, which is kind of the equivalent of 180,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and that's over a grand, and so
yeah.
that is not cheap. Is they
But
have
the
the
only thing
60
with that
mac.
one is
Yeah,
it will autofocus down to macro distances, won't it?
I think it does. Yes.
The Yeah, whereas the Laowa, it only has autofocus past 1.5 meters.
Yes.
So whatever happens, you're focusing manually closer than
Yeah.
that. Sorry, I interrupted you. Carry on.
No, no,
Carry
no,
on.
no, no, man. I mean, it's a fair point about the manual focusing side, because majority macro photographer would tend to use manual focus anyway. But it depends what kind of applications you are. A lot of handheld
Yeah.
macro photographer would prefer the AF, because they can do in-body focus stacking, especially
Well,
for
that's
micro
right.
four
Yeah.
thirds system. So they don't really mind having AF for macro purposes, because they focus stack 6, 7, 8 images
I think,
anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
you kind of
So
need it. You need it really. If you're
yeah.
going to do focus stacking, you want autofocus really. Otherwise, you're going to have a very long, painful job with the focus rail. I've got one nearby, but it means doing tiny distance adjustments on the focus rail if you're doing
Yeah.
it manually, unless somebody knows a better way. And
Yeah.
I guess the issue with that is that if you're actually moving the camera,
Yeah.
you're changing the magnification very slightly. So it
Yeah.
all gets a bit messy if you don't have autofocus for macro,
It
if you're
does.
doing focus stacking.
So we all agree that the 180 macro is a stellar lens, and I think
It's
for the price,
terrific.
is I would say it's a bargain. I mean, it
Yeah, I
works for
think
full
so.
frame. I know someone just asked if is this for 4/3. No, it isn't. It's really for full
Yeah.
frame slash APS-C for if you have the same mount, right? And because the Nikon Z APS-C and full frame uses the same mount, so it can adapt to the APS-C on the Nikon. And Sony E as well. I think the Sony E mount also work for their E mount APS-C sensors cameras.
Oh yeah, will too. Yeah, yeah. I'm
So
pretty
if
sure.
you have one of those systems and this lens, it will work perfectly with those cameras. Yeah, it's good. It's really good. I haven't done the review yet, but I've shot plenty of test shots on that one, and I think it's a very very sharp lens. I have to say, I
Actually,
still.
on APS-C, on an APS-C Sony, that would be something like 270 millimeters equivalent.
Yes.
So something like 270 f4.5. That's not too shabby as a
No, no.
telephoto. I don't think the autofocus would keep up with action though. It's not that kind of autofocus.
No, I mean I
It's
can't really use it on the ZFC or the APS-C Nikon because it's got no IBIS, and having that kind of focal length,
yeah, yeah.
shooting really close is not an option. I mean, unless you
No.
really have to put it on the tripod to take anything seriously.
And all the test shots I did were on a tripod.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chuck is saying the ultimate. I haven't got an automated reel. That's an interesting idea. I've only got a manual one, which is pretty painful.
You can tell we're not very serious about macro photography.
How they would work in the field, I think really you'd want a tripod and an AF macro lens, to be honest, for focus stacking in the field. I wouldn't like to try it any other way.
Yeah. So
and the only thing is in the field, everything's blowing about in the wind, so that's a problem.
Absolutely. You know, if you want to photograph anything, you make sure that it's not just you moving, but also the subject's not moving as well. You know, but any subtle movement, you're gonna get out of focus.
I was photographing some extreme close-ups of flowers in my back garden, and it's next to impossible because they've only got to move a millimeter and they're out of focus. So you end up taking about 20 shots to get a sharp one. It's hard work.
It is. That's why I don't think I could ever be a macro photographer, because I just don't have that patience to do anything like that. Yeah. But just for those who just joined us, we are basically talking lenses there in 2025, both new releases and also some older lenses we still think is great in 2025. And we welcome your contribution as well. Just want to hear from you guys what's the lenses that you're still using in 2025 that you think is good. Maybe we can talk a little bit about those lenses, and you know, very likely we're going to agree to those as well, because if you guys are using it, I'm pretty sure they're good. And so on the other spectrum, so we talk about Laowa's 180 macro, and let's flip the coin a little bit, because when we talked about prices, we thought the 180 macro is quite a bargain for what it is. Now we're gonna go look for possibly the most expensive Laowa photography lens they have ever produced. Right, let me get it out, and it's still a heavy beast, right? Right here. This is the 200mm f1.8. I need to take the lens hood out so you can actually see it.
How much is that, Jimmy?
I think it's $2,000. Maybe less than that. I mean, it's less than Sigma's version, for quite a margin.
Right.
I think Sigma's 200 f1.8 is almost $3,000. I think, $3,000 or £2,000. There we go. Look at the front element. Oh my! This is just massive.
It looks like it's been done in a new style as well. So it's had a kind of dark blue grey style body.
No, it's the same color as all the other Laowa AF lenses.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
right.
The same, yeah, it's the same color as
some of the older
10.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that autofocus?
It is autofocus, and I think, you know, like it's a great lens for the price. And obviously, it's an expensive lens, not a cheap lens. So, and only those who, I think, that who would use this type of lenses for sports and kind of photograph would appreciate this lens, because it's not really a daily carry. It's not going to lug around this lens every day. You know, it's first of all, it's a fixed 200mm. It's quite long. So I don't see that it can be everyday thing. They can shoot on the street, for instance, or, you know, travel. It's not going to be that type of lenses. These are very specific lenses for specific usage. Football field, motor racings, and that kind of thing. But for what it is, for the lens, I actually think, again, Laowa has done a great job in kind of blending the price and performance ratio fairly well. If you compare like for like, you know, like the closest competitors now is the Sigma 200mm f1.8, but the Sigma is a better lens if you talk about optically, but you are also paying 50% more to get that sort of quality. And for those who are not pro, you're just kind of dabbling around with this kind of photography, like sports photography, you really want the subject separation, you want the low light capabilities and performance, I would say this is an easily recommendable lens. Unless you really want to stretch to that sort of budget, and you get for the Sigma. In most cases, I would say that even myself included, every time I buy this sort of specialist lens, I tend to use it for a few times and just kind of left it on the side until maybe a year or two later, and then pick it up again. Oh, let's go for a spin. It's not going to be something that I'm going to constantly using. If in that particular case, and unless I have a ton of spare cash lying around, I think that if you just want to experience it, I think these sort of lenses would probably be a good option. You don't want to stretch it all the way to the top and get the top end lenses. Currently, for mirrorless cameras, it's either going to be Laowa and Sigma anyway. If you want to go a little bit old school, and the Canon and Nikon did make some for DSLRs, but those are costing even more money, you know, in today's terms. And the Nikon would go for 5-6K, and then like Canon would probably be similar in that kind of pricing. So it's not going to be cheap. So if you want a 200 millimeters with 1.8 aperture, there really aren't that many options.
I think it's difficult with lenses, isn't it? Because it's not until you use them that you figure out whether you can put up with them or not. And when I say put up with them, you have to make allowance for how much they weigh, how they change the balance of the camera, whether they are as useful as you thought they were going to be, whether you hate carrying them around. You can't tell just before you use them. So you end up buying things, and it's only after a few outings you figure out, do you know what? I don't like it, or I'm not going to use it, or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you remember talking about Laowa, Jimmy? Do you remember you warned me when I told you I was getting into tilt shift lenses? You warned me how big they were, and I thought, no, it's fine, Jimmy. I've used shift lenses before, but then this arrived.
Massive, isn't it? It's huge.
It is quite big. It is
and
quite
heavy.
big. And heavy. And I've got to work out how to unlock the shift and tilt axes too.
Yeah.
So, a shift lens is wonderful for architecture, but to use your phrase, Jimmy, be careful what you wish for, because they're not simple and they're not quick.
No,
I think and also they're completely dumb. So there's no EXIF, there's no aperture control from the body. Just take a notebook and write down what you did in case you need to look it up later.
Yeah, full menu focus, no AF, everything menu. So but I mean, I have to say, you know, optical quality is great. I mean, I don't know how many test shots you've done so far, but I think it's a very sharp lens for what it is.
Yeah, I had to get them to lift in with block and tackle. It's in my office at the moment. No, I haven't used it yet. I will do soon, but it's I mean, you know, a lens is heavy.
Yeah.
When you get a tripod for it on a base.
Yeah.
I've not had that before on a tilt shift lens, but I've used a few of the Nikon DSLR ones, but they weren't that big.
Yeah.
But I look forward to trying it out.
Yeah.
And
Chuck just say how long until Laowa start making cameras?
They're only just getting round to autofocus across the lens range. They're not going to make.
Well, look how long it took Sigma to make a camera. You know, like they started as a lens maker for
they should have made it longer.
Yeah.
Well, no, this is true. It's true. I don't think Laowa will.
No,
that's just
stay with what they know best.
That's an interesting idea, though. But I think one of the lenses I regret getting rid of again is the Laowa. It's a 10mm f2, because I just got a bit fed up with the manual focus and thought, do you know what, I'm not using it enough. I'll get rid of it. Soon after that, I managed to pick up the Olympus 12mm f2.
Yeah.
At a very good price, and I thought, this is fine, I'm going to be happy with this. But actually, the Laowa, even though it's manual focus, is a better lens, which is a bit
it's sharper at the corner.
The Olympus is not very good in the corners, really, unless you stop down quite a lot. Whereas the Laowa, it is faultless.
Yeah,
it's extremely good lens. You just got to focus. That's all.
But then, I mean, I like the Olympus 12mm, but then again, you know, that lens is
nicely made.
13, 14-year-old now. That lens is pretty old. That lens. So
that lens was probably designed when the cameras had 12 million pixels.
Yes, it has.
Not 20. So that wouldn't help. Having said that, the 25 f1.8, I've got the old version, but that is extremely sharp.
Yes.
I'd say
But it's
that's
also a
better.
very simple lens as well. Very simple design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say it's probably a little bit sharper than my 17 1.8. And the 45 1.8, that's just exceptional at that price.
Right.
I think. Except if you get very close, when you tend to get a bit of purple fringing. But yeah, so most of my lenses are quite old, I'm afraid.
Well, it doesn't mean it's bad, like I mean, like I said, we're gonna share some lenses that I still use in 2025. It's not new, but I still think they are great for even now with all the new and newer cameras. I would say not latest, but newer cameras. Owen actually asked me, what's next on the list, and can you tell us? I won't tell anyone, so let might as well get on to the next lens then. So. The next lens that I personally find it very interesting, and so also another lens that I will buy, but currently is out of stock everywhere in the UK, is the Sigma 17 to 40 millimeters f1.8. And again, this lens, and I don't know how Sigma did it, but for the price, you are getting a heck of a lens. Constant 1.8 aperture, very usable range. On the APS-C cameras, lightweight, weather sealed. You really can't ask for more. It's got almost pro grade optics. Everything is sharp, wide open, in any focal range. It just great lens and full stop. And so I already asked Sigma if they can reserve me one, because all the retailers seem to be selling out. So like they just don't have it. I try to get one, but just none available. Because I reviewed the lens with my XM5, the Fujifilm XM5, and I found it to be extremely kind of good match with the Fujifilm system. And because of that, I actually said to Rod already, I bought the XH2S. Because it's a weather seal camera. It's also another camera that has 26 megapixel and the latest processor. So in theory, it should work similarly to the XM5, but with weather sealing and the pro grade body and bigger battery and so forth. I'm just waiting for the Sigma lens to complete the package, so I can get like a professional setup just on the APS-C platform.
Well, it's an ideal lens for videographers too, isn't it? Because you can get nice subject separation and shallow depth of field, but it is a price point and a weight, which is a bit more appealing than full frame.
Oh, I mean, it shocked me how light it was, and it's not a metal body. So let's put it. It's not a metal body. It's a plastic body. That's where the weight saving came in. But I didn't mind that, because we have used a lot of the plastic cameras and plastic lenses. There's nothing wrong with it, and to be quite honest, in some way it may actually resisting knocks a little bit better than metal lenses, and obviously depending on how hard you knock it. Generally, I think plastic absorbs vibrations and impact a little bit better than metal. Metal may seem stronger, but once you dent it, and that's it, you kind of ruin it. So like you just have to be mindful about that, and that's why I always don't have objection about plastic equipment, because when we say plastic, they're not the cheap plastic. These are reinforced plastic on camera bodies and lenses. They're not something you buy off the shelf in the supermarket, like in one of those plastic plates. It's not as fragile as those things. It's way stronger, and they also to some extent heat resistant as well, because people will expect them to be used under the sun for a long time, so they have to endure the heat expansions and all the other stuff as well. So these are not normal plastic we're talking about. They are very, very different, a lot stronger plastic. So that's my favorite that I reviewed this year. What else I have on my desk at the moment? I have a few more lenses. Let's quickly go through them. Let me put away the OM system lens. Right. So the next on the list is gonna be a lens that just came out not long ago, but I have used it for the last couple of weeks, which is a C-Ray lens, which is another Chinese lens maker who are known for their cine lenses, they're anamorphic lenses, but they have get into the photography market now. They're starting making AF lenses since about, I would say, 4 or 5 years ago. So they started with some AF anamorphic lenses, but now they're really moving into the photography market. So last year they introduced, or earlier this year, they introduced the 85 1.4. This is not my favorite. I'm just showing you. So this is the 85 1.4 portrait lens for full frame and APS-C camera. And it's actually a very small and compact lens for 1.4. So it's actually not very big at all. And actually relatively light despite it has a metal body. This is not my favorite lens. I reviewed this lens. I actually told you why I didn't like it. Even though it's quite sharp, shooting wide open 1.4. But the only thing that let this lens down is the distortion. It has some kind of weird distortion that I simply cannot correct in post. So it's not ideal. But unless you're shooting something with lines in the background or foreground, or something with patterns, you shouldn't notice it that much. But it's just something. If I review a lens, I have to talk about things that I generally find from the lens. But the lens that I am very much like is also from Sirui, of course. This is the new one. The 35 1.4. It's a very interesting lens here, and I already see Camera Conspiracy YouTube channel has talked about this lens. He's tested it, and he didn't like it because he thinks it's too expensive. I believe this lens is selling for about $600, if I'm not mistaken. So you are talking about similar money to Nikon's 35mm 1.4, not the S line, but the normal 1.4, which is the cheaper line from Nikon. So you're talking about a native brand, 35 1.4, in the same kind of money for this. I can understand his frustration about this particular lens here. The pricing is very close to that lens. But when I tested this lens, I didn't find, in terms of rendering or things that he talked about, he said it's too clinical, too sharp. But that may be, it's only his personal opinion, but I'm pretty sure there will be plenty of people out there who prefer that kind of look. It's very punchy look. Similarly, you can get from Leica, for instance. Some of the modern Leica lenses are quite clinical. They can be very punchy, very sharp. Focus and defocus is completely separate, so you can get that 3D pop, as some people would call it. You do get this with this lens, and also for the same price. I know the Nikon may have the brand appeal, but you do gain weather sealing, full metal body, and all the custom buttons you can get with the Nikon lens lacks. So you can clearly see that, Sirui is trying to win customers with more features, with better build. In terms of rendering, and I think it's very subjective, and not necessarily is a bad thing or good thing.
So you mentioned with the 85 that you got some weird distortion you couldn't correct. What body was that on? Was that Nikon?
On the Nikon, yes.
Because my understanding with Sony, I don't use Nikon Z. With Sony, everyone who makes a lens for Sony cameras tends to supply a correction profile which is embedded in the raw files. So yeah. I'm guessing that doesn't happen with this 85 on the Nikon.
No, it does. It does give you has a profile. Even Lightroom has a profile, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It corrects a little bit of vignetting, so the dark corners have been lifted, and then it corrects a little bit of the barrel distortions in the central area, but it's got a weird curve towards the end, which is kind of really hard to correct. So you either fix the middle or you fix the edges. You can't fix both, basically.
Lens corrections are a very complex area because lenses behave in very curious ways and are not necessarily consistent, because I've got some shots taken with the Canon 15-30 ultra wide zoom where objects at a distance are perfectly corrected, but if you've got objects quite close to the camera, you do get noticeable distortion. So it's as if the distortion characteristics of the lens change with distance, which is not very helpful.
It does change actually, depending how far you are actually, and But it's just one of those things that, you know, if it's just a simple barrel distortion or pincushion, it's easy to correct. But when you have to kind of like a mixture of both in the same pane, and it's going to be hard to correct.
I think you'll find as well that the different software publishers have very different correction profiles that don't behave in the same way. So that, for example, I use a generic correction profile for a lot of images in Capture One, which gives quite a realistic set of proportions to objects close to the edge of the frame. Whereas other corrections, I'm afraid DxO is a bit guilty of this. Anything circular goes into like an oval towards the edges. It's like stretched it too far and hasn't maintained natural looking proportions. And Lightroom will do it differently again. So just having a profile doesn't mean to say you're going to get a fully corrected image every time.
To be honest,
it's quite difficult to deal with.
It is. I mean, like so far, I think the best lens profile correction is from DxO. I mean, if DxO whole, somehow has the lens profile, they correct the best compared to all the other things I've tried.
But now and again, I've found occasions where somebody else's profile looks a little bit more natural. Or maybe it preserves what looks like more natural aspect ratio. There's so many variables. I think if I had to choose one, I'd probably go with DxO's corrections. But they're not always the best every time, but they're most likely to be the best most of the time. But honestly, lens corrections are a nightmare, especially if you use Canon, because Canon doesn't embed correction profiles in the raw files. You have to have software that has a profile. Otherwise, you have had it.
Absolutely.
Not to overstate it.
Okay, right. One more lens I want to talk about, and before we move on to the older lenses that I think is still great in 2025, and this is actually brand new. This is brand new. Just came out from Viltrox. They did launch this lens for E-mount, for Sony E-mount, I think a couple of months ago. But this is new for Z-mount, for Nikon cameras. And this is the 85mm f2 EVO. And so there's a brand new Viltrox lens. The reason why I think this is interesting is it has multiple benefits compared to its competitor. First of all, being f2 lens, you already see that the form factor is very, is already an advantage. It's quite small, very compact. It's still very, very well built, very well put together lens.
Is that full frame, Jimmy? Is that full frame?
It's full frame. It's a full frame 85 f2.
Well, I have to show you mine then. The size difference is significant. Hang on. Oh. That's my Canon one. It's about twice the size, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Look how dinky this is.
I can't get the scale to match. But yeah, my Canon E5 f2 is about as big as most people's f1.4s.
Yeah.
I'm quite jealous now.
So
except because Canon won't let them make it in the RF mode.
I know. So Viltrox somehow created a winner here, and so I'm actually currently doing a full review on this lens at the moment. But I'll give you a quick overview of this lens. First of all, you can see the form factor. It's very small, very compact. It's got a little bit of weight to it, but I think an aperture ring. It has aperture ring.
Yep.
It can be click and declick as well.
Yeah. Amazing.
It's got loads of things here. You got AM, FM buttons here. You got the obviously click and declick button. Together with a one custom button, you can set it to anything you want. So it's actually quite a feature-packed lens for what it is.
Is it?
But the best thing is the price. It's actually cheap. Because this is not Viltrox Pro lens. Viltrox has now, including this one, it has 4 separate lines now. They have the Air series. The Air series, which is the lowest consumer grade lens. So it's not weather sealed. It's got virtually no feature. It's just a basic lens. Then you got the Pro lens, which is fully metal build. The bigger, you got usually bigger, brighter aperture like 1.4. Then you have the Lab series, which is like the cream right at the top of the Viltrox line. Usually have 1.2 aperture. So currently, Viltrox only have 2 lab lenses, which is 135 f2 and then the 35mm 1.2. Those are the only two lap lenses that they have. But the EVO is a brand new line that they launched. So I presume they're launching this lens for the very reason I'm going to talk about now. This lens is basically priced almost like the Air series. So it's very low end for the price, very affordable. But it has pro features like weather sealing. You got aperture ring, got custom buttons and things. So it's actually, for most people, I would just simply say, go ahead and buy this instead of buying the Air or even the Pro lens, because you're not losing too much of light with the f2 aperture. It's still got enough subject separation, and it's weather seal. What more can you ask for? And interestingly, this lens is about the same size and weight as the Olympus 45 1.2 Pro. If you think about that lens in terms of the focal range and the perceived depth of field effect, because it's crop factor in a micro four thirds system. 1.2, it kind of looks almost like a 2.4 aperture, right, in terms of subject separation and the bokeh and the depth of field look. This is f2, so like for like, this actually got slightly shallower depth of field compared to the 1.2 Pro, but this is selling a lot less than the micro four thirds lens. So
is it good?
It is actually pretty good. It's actually good.
You know how you hate focus breathing?
Yes.
I hate bokeh fringing to about the same degree. Because I think if you've got a lens which gives you lovely soft backgrounds, you do not want colour fringing around the defocused edges.
Yeah.
Because you just can't get rid of it. So I don't mind focus breathing. I can't stand bokeh fringing. Drives me mad.
I guess bokeh fringing is also another thing that can be quite personal as well. I know some people are deliberately looking for those kind of look, especially for movies and filming. They're not so much about photography.
I need to stop.
Yeah, it's weird because you see these days in a lot of the modern films or modern movie makings, you can see that they use all kinds of lenses for all kinds of different effects, whether it's going to be having a triangular bokeh shape, where basically three-bladed lens, or something with bubble effect, like really strong fringings on the bokeh. So they are looking for very specific kind of look in the movie. It's not everybody's taste, but there you go. That's where they are. But for this lens, I think that I don't notice that strong bokeh fringing that I can notice. Certainly, in terms of other aspects of it, it's very well controlled. There's not much of a fringings anywhere, and also actually it has very minimal focus breathing as well. If you use it for video, you do notice it, but it's not very strong. But compared to the Olympus or Ohm System 45 1.2 Pro, the 1.2 Pro still wins in terms of overall video capabilities from the breathing side of it, and also the bokeh definitely a lot softer in the Olympus Ohm System lens. It just gives you that kind of really lovely organic look, that kind of like reminiscence of the film photography, which I personally like a lot. But the Viltrox is not far behind, and for the price, you really can't argue with it. If you've got a full frame camera, looking for kind of like a budget entry level portrait lens, while still kind of having that pro features like weather sealing and aperture ring.
The thing is, it's the size as well.
Yeah.
So for an 85 f2, that's quite a compact lens. So I use Sony gear where the bodies are quite compact, and you don't really want big prime lenses on those bodies if you can avoid it.
Well, I'll just give you a size comparison too. This is 1.4, 85 1.4 from Zero that I showed you earlier. And this is this is the f2. It's ridiculous how small it is, and it will save you a few grams on the camera bag, that's for sure, and you can carry for a bit longer, and you're not losing too much. It's depending on what sort of thing you do. For an f2, you still got plenty of subject separations there, and if you want to shoot landscape, you stop down the lens anyway, so that means that it matters less. And you stop the lens down, you get all the sharpness you need, and it's weather sealed, so you can take it in the rain.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
So I think it is a winner. It's a strange winner that I didn't expect to see this year. Because I would have thought, when Viltrox first contacted me, they got a new 85, or I thought it would be another cheap lens. Because I know they already have the Pro 85 1.4, so I didn't expect that would be a new line, which is called EVO, compared to the cheaper Air series lines that they already have. So that
getting a bit complicated then.
It's getting a bit complicated now, and I'm not sure how they're gonna rationalize it in the future. Because definitely, for me, I'll prefer the EVO line than Air series. I don't mind paying a little bit more just to get the weather seal.
Right.
Yeah, like for me, I always prefer a lens with weather seal anyway, if I can, because I shoot in the rain a lot. I don't know how good the weather sealing is, though. Definitely not as good as the Pro lines that they have. But at least you've got something, right? You know that you can withstand some sort of rain instead of none at all. So it will be interesting to see what kind of lenses they bring for this particular line. And I'm hoping to see the F50 f2, maybe 35 f2 in that kind of look, in that sort of prices. And that means they potentially have a really good Trinity prime lenses that a lot of photographers may need, and in a very small form factor as well.
Well, it's interesting for me shooting on Sony, because at the moment the only real choices are the Sigma I series, which are the kind of compact primes, which have the f2 primes, but they're still quite big, still quite heavy. Yeah. And the Sony ones, which are a bit slower but smaller, but just cost too much money.
Yeah.
So there's a Sony 24 f2.8, which is like £650, something like that, and it's just not very good. It's not sharp enough across the frame, so that's disappointing. So yeah, I might have a look at those Viltrox lenses. They sound quite interesting.
They are.
Who's to say Viltrox isn't making lenses for camera makers? Nobody knows.
and to be honest, something like this doesn't even have a competitor at the moment, and not even from Sigma, not even from anybody. Not
at that size. I mean, like you saw my Canon version; it's twice the size.
Yeah, I mean, I know that G Master and Sigma both have compact lenses, but they're f2.5 aperture or 2.8 aperture. They're not f2.
There are a couple of smaller Sigma ones. Yeah. The f2s are. I think the Sigma does the 17mm f4, which I've kind of got my eye on.
Right.
But f4 is fairly slow, and I think that's the Sigma 24 3.5, which is a small lens, but it's not terribly appealing, is it? Small as it is, 3.5 isn't amazing, really.
Yeah.
So I'm always on the lookout. I think as you go to full frame, it gets harder to find lenses that you're going to enjoy using. Because I think a lot of the time the lens designers, because there's so many demands on specifications and performance, they just make lenses that are just uncomfortable to use.
Absolutely. And Chuck just said that Samyang, Roncanon also make decent lenses for Sony. I mean, heard about a lot of great things about Samyang lenses, but I personally don't have enough experience with them, so so I can't really comment on those lenses. But and thanks for bringing it up. If you think that they are very decent, I'm pretty sure they are, because I heard a lot of good things about them. Maybe one day, I will start reviewing their lenses, then I can tell you a little bit more about them. I did have some Meiki lenses from China as well. They are good for their manual lenses, but so far their autofocus lenses are just isn't quite the same level as Viltrox or Laowa. So they're okay. They're workable lenses, but I wouldn't say at the same kind of level as some of the more bigger players now in China. And it seems like the likes of TT Artisan and 7 Artisan are still kind of playing catch up at the moment. And as you would expect, some of these lenses I suspect they're actually coming from the same factories. They're just putting their own branding on it. So the optical rendering is very similar to like if I look at the images side by side, they almost look exactly the same to me. So unlike Viltrox and Laowa, which have their own optical design and own kind of manufacturing facilities, and they do produce their own thing, have their own lens coatings and things like that, so they do behave a lot better than some of the cheaper alternatives. But again, I'm not against them because they are really, really cheap. So if you're just getting into photography, if you're on a budget, by all means, I mean, those are still pretty good options. They're just not the best option. But today we are talking about the best lenses we've reviewed so far. So hence we're talking about this today. So now these are the new lenses that I have tested this year that I think is really amazing. I mean, obviously there's other kind of worth mentioning is maybe is the weather seal version of the small primes from OM system, the 17 and then 25. You know, optically they are almost identical to the older 17 and 25 1.8. You know, which is, you already said, the 25 original 25 is really brilliant, right, Rod? So I don't see, you know, the new version is any worse. It's actually the same lens, but you now have weather seal. Like I said, I much prefer weather seal lenses. So now I can have a much smaller, compact version of the 25 instead of bringing and lugging the 25 1.2 Pro, which is like 3 times the size and 3 times the weight.
It must rain a lot more where you work, Jimmy.
I live in London.
Yeah. Well, I live in Western-super-Mare, so I tend to get gale force winds, but most lenses don't mind those.
No.
The only trouble I get is when the sun blows up off the beach and gets in your ears and in your camera, in your coat pocket. It's very strange, very strange climate down here.
yeah, but I'm pretty sure you got some amazing seascape photos, though.
You have to remember that the whole of that part of the coast is on the Severn estuary, so the water is brown, not blue. So it's better in black and white.
Fair enough. Okay, now let's talk some old lenses, older lenses that we think is still very cool in 2025. And this is the time that you guys will all chip in now. The lenses that you are still using this year in 2025, you can't let go of. It has to be in your camera bag or on your camera all the time. Please give me some lenses and see whether you matches our selection as well. So Rod, let's start with you. What lenses you carry around all the time?
I'm just going to get mine. I won't say all the time because I've got a couple of Nikon DSLR bodies, and I don't shoot with Nikon DSLRs all the time. But I'll just have to. They're in a bag on top of my wardrobe, and because it's old Nikon DSLR gear, it weighs about 60 pounds. So I have to be. You'll see me in a moment.
Yep.
Good grief.
I can hear that. I can hear Rod is complaining already. It's a workout, right? It's a workout just to get that.
It's a workout, yeah. I'm only doing 1 rep though. There's a limit. Right, here we go. So this is my Nikon AFS 24 to 120. I'll hold it further away so it doesn't look so big. So it's my 24 to 120. It's a DSLR lens that goes back, I don't know what we're going to say, 10 years or so. So it's a 24 to 120 f4 with VR.
It's very sharp.
And it is actually very good. So I like 24 to 105s because, you know, it's a bit more focal range than usual. But this is a 120, not a 105.
Okay.
So I've used quite a few lenses of this type. For a long time, I had the Sony 24 to 105 f4,
right,
in E-mount, but I don't think it was as good as this.
Yeah,
it wasn't as sharp at 105 millimeters as this is at 120.
Yeah,
I've also used Canon RF 24 to 105 f4 L lens, which I think isn't that great. It's all right, but it's not great. I think actually Canon's better, and this is going to sound mad, better 24 to 105 is the cheap f4 to 7.1 STM lens.
Okay.
So it's, you know, it's quite a cheap kit lens.
Yeah.
It's got a very variable maximum aperture, but it's consistent right up to 105 millimeters. And it's got the best in-lens stabilization I've ever used. It's uncanny. but of course, you never get something for nothing. And this lens relies so heavily on digital corrections at its widest focal length that I think Chuck was complaining a little while ago that it took Capture One a year to support the GL3, Ricoh GL3. Capture One does not make a lens profile for this lens. And it means that I can't really use Capture One and images from this lens together. I have to use something like GXO, do the corrections in there. So that's a frustration with this particular lens. And I think there's a general point that every lens you get, even the ones you love, there's one thing that really annoys you.
Right.
And with this one, it's that 24 millimeters, one of the most commonly used focal lengths.
Because I think the Canon 24-105 L lens, F4L, is almost a repackaged lens from the DSLR era. So that lens wasn't that great to start with. So
I feel it's never particularly sharp, the L series lens, and it's not that good at the edges at 24 millimeters, and it's not great at 105. So I think even though it has a reputation as an L lens, it's not one of Canon's best.
No.
Just got to release a barking dog a minute.
That's fine. So I'm just looking at Chuck's favorite lens is the Laowa 6mm f2. Absolutely, I still love this lens to bit, and it's still one of my favorite lenses of all time. I recently got it back because I lent that lens to Camera Intelligence, the one who made the AI camera, which I just recently published the video. I lent it to them to test the lens on that camera. So I recently got it back, so I have it back now, so I can start using it again, because I love this lens so much in almost everything, really. You know, if you want something ultra wide, rectilinear, you really can't get better than the 6mm f2, and it's such a compact lens. It's very, very easy to carry around. Just shove it in your camera bag, you won't even feel it. You know, it's just a great carry-on lens. Yeah. Full stop.
Do you happen to know if the 7.5 f2 is good, Jimmy?
Yes, I have it. I have it.
Is it as good as the other?
I would say the 6mm will probably be better still.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, I have the 9 f2.8 in front of me. It's a very small lens though. It's very tiny. Yeah, that's a 9mm f2.8. So it's an older lens compared to all the others. But you know, something I like about all these tiny little micro four thirds lenses from Laowa. You just kind of get lenses this small these days. You know, I know we keep saying, like even Viltrox are making lenses are small now. But you know, it compared to this, it's again night and day difference.
I do think that is MFT's greatest strength, and you do kind of need to play to that strength when you design lenses for MFT. But the Laowa MFT lenses are very good. That 9mm you've got, that I think that also covers APS-C, but it has quite strong vignetting on APS-C.
Yes, but this is got cropped in, so you can't see it.
Yeah, so you don't see it. It's an extremely good lens, that 9mm.
Yeah. And let's see, Jeff. I think Jeff and a few other people mentioned about the same. Jeff and John also mentioned the same 12-40 2.8 Pro. Absolutely. You know, this is like a staple lens, right? You know, for any Olympus Micro Four Third users. It's a great lens. Full stop. It's sharp. It's fast, and it's still relatively small, and it's got constant 2.8 aperture. It's everyday go around lens, full stop. You know, you can carry this and literally cover 99.9% of the photographic needs. It's never failed me. I mean, I got two of these lenses. I got the original Olympus, and then I got the Mark II version, which has got just slightly different front coating, but essentially the same lens. It's got no optical changes. It's just a good lens. So for anyone getting into Micro Four Thirds system, I always recommend them to just get this lens first, because it covers almost everything you need. And if you want a even slightly smaller package, you can get the f4 version, the 12 to 45 f4 Pro. It's also very sharp, very small, very light, and it just doesn't have the same light gathering capability compared to the 2.8 version. But other than that, you are getting almost an identical performance in terms of image quality compared to the 2.8 brother. But if you want everything, yeah, the 2.8 version is good. It's got manual clutch as well, so it just got everything.
I can vouch for the weather sealing on the 12 to 45 because I reviewed the OM52 for Tech Radar, and I thought, do you know what, I better do something a bit different for the product shot. So I put it on the tripod and I got the hose pipe on it. Not like pressure washer, but just pretend rain. Yeah. And of course it didn't affect it at all.
Yeah. Well, I
always use the tripod a bit, but
I always use that lens to mount on my camera to do some spray water shot to show the waterproofness of the cameras.
Yeah,
it's very easy. And we got yes, another one here, Chris. And your favorite is the Panasonic Leica 9mm f1.7. It's a great lens.
Yes, interesting choice, isn't it? Yeah,
it is a great lens. I have to say.
I'm not overwhelmed with the Olympus 12mm f2. I can't understand why it is so expensive. It usually retails about something ridiculous like $650, $600. And it's nice to use and lovely to look at and handle, but it's just not that great. So I'm kind of thinking I might have to go back to the Laowa 10mm because that was just such a stellar lens.
Well, I like the 12, even though it's not optically the best. But I think it has character. I think that lens, the images that gives me a little bit of a, almost like one of those 1960 lenses, and it's not sharp, and edges, the front is the center is quite sharp.
It's fine in the center, yeah.
But I think that if you shoot black and white on the street, that lens does give you a little bit of an interesting look to it. But I mean, I just that's personal. That's me. I got that lens when I first tested it, and on my camera, I thought, ooh, that looks a bit different, and especially when you go a bit closer, when you're starting to throw the background out of focus a little bit, you will notice that it has a kind of like an old school look to it. So it's unusual for Olympus lenses back then, and I think 12 is the only lens that get me that look, because all the 17, 25, and 45 won't give me that at all.
That's interesting. Yeah. Maybe I'll persevere a little bit more. But I also do a thing which we all shouldn't do. Maybe I'm more guilty of it than anyone else. You zoom in, and I've got a 4K monitor. I don't need to zoom in. If it looks sharp full screen on a 4K monitor, it's sharp enough. We all do it. We all do it. It's like when you got a bad tooth. You have to keep probing it, don't you, to see how bad it is.
You do. It's it hurts. It hurts.
Oh no, my Olympus 12mm f2 is soft in the corners, so every shot you take, you have to go and look at the corners and go, oh no. It's ridiculous, really, isn't it?
Yeah. But yes, the Leica 9mm 1.7 is a really good lens, and I used it for vlogging a lot in the last few years. Not so much this year, actually, and I haven't really touched the lens this year, but I do like it the time when I use it. And that's very interesting. Let's see another comment here. And so Owen, for 2025, 26, 27, all the way to 2030, forever, his favorite lens is 300mm f4.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Somebody operates on a completely different scale to me then.
Brilliant lens though.
Well, I think amongst people who prefer other formats, the Olympus 300mm f4 goes unnoticed.
Yeah.
But it's like a 600 f4 in full frame terms.
I know.
You can't if you forget it's there at your peril, especially if you're into wildlife and birding.
It's a weird thing that you said that, because people don't really notice that lens at all outside of the Olympus.
No, I don't understand it.
I think because first of all, it's a 300, and then when people saw 300 and f4, they just don't register. Like when people think of prime, it's a dedicated professional prime. It has to be a 2.8 aperture, right? In the full frame world. 300 2.8, it's going to cost you 15 grand to get it, it's just not that type. I mean, not that type of lens. The 300 f4 is a phenomenal lens, super sharp, super fast. You talk to a lot of wildlife photographer, birders, they love that lens a lot, and it's a great lens. Personally, I don't use that lens at all. I mean, I don't even own it. But the time when I tested it and reviewed it, I loved it. The image quality is simply stunning. It's so sharp, that lens, even wide open f4. But like you said, when you're working as a full frame equivalent, which is 600 millimeters, that means that the angle of view is so narrow. It's very hard to use. For me, I'm not an expert in that kind of lenses. So when you get to that kind of narrow field of view, it's really hard to use. I mean, unless you know what you're photographing, you're stationary. If you want to try to chase something that's moving, that's when you're starting to struggle.
It's the sort of lens you use when you can control where you stand and you know where your subject's going to be. It's like any super telephoto prime, isn't it?
Yeah,
but I think with birding, if you're watching a nest or a habitat or whatever, I think you probably do know where you've got to be. So a telephoto prime kind of makes a lot of sense. It's difficult for sports like soccer or rugby or anything on a pitch. Because the action can take place at any distance. Most of the football photographers I know would just have two cameras. So I have one with the long lens when the play's up the other end, and one with the shorter telephoto when it comes your end, and you just pick whichever camera you need. I'm not sure zoom is much help. I think it is, but then if somebody gets a shot at goal, you haven't got time to zoom. You've got to have the right lens on. So
that's why you see all the
that's a skill in itself.
Sports photographer, you see them on the side of the stadium. They always have like 3 or 4 different prime lenses in different focal lengths lined up together because they know which one they need to use whenever the occasion arises. And Owen actually replied that I'm a birder as well. So yes, so there you go.
I'm going to be the opposite. I'm going to be very boring and predictable. There will never be another lens like this one.
Is that the Olympus version?
Use. Yeah, it is for pen users.
Yes.
So if you've got a Pen F even, or EP7 or any pen, this is the lens. Where else will you get a 28 to 85 that small?
Yeah, you can't.
You can't. But, it's still on the theme that every lens has one extremely irritating property. With this one, it's the electronic zoom. It's slow. It never goes... The turning the ring, it always goes in the other direction to the one I think it will. It's quite irritating.
And another one here from you guys. So 105, Nikon 105 is an absolute beast, that lens. I don't have a great deal of experience with that. My friend was an old DSLR and SLR user, and he swear by this 105. And I mean, it's a great portrait lens, full stop. And I know he's got this really creamy separation. I mean, like a bokeh rendering, and so it's really nice for subject separations. And you use it on the DF, which is even better. It looks good, right? The DF.
I've been looking at DFs. They're still a bit expensive for my liking, secondhand, but it still might happen. Still might happen.
And also you've been playing around with the TT Artisan 56mm f1.8 on the Nikon APS-C cameras. It's decent.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would think so. TT Artisan is actually pretty good in general. They're not the highest performer, but they're certainly not the worst. So they're kind of stuck in the middle, and it's perfectly decent for normal shooting scenarios. And they are affordable, very affordable.
It's ideal for occasional use, isn't it? Because if you're going to just use a lens now and again, why would you spend heaps and heaps of money? It's going back to that Laowa 180 macro.
Yeah.
If you shoot macros all day, every day for a living, you probably wouldn't choose that. But if you want a macro lens to use, say, a dozen times a year, then it makes sense because it doesn't break the bank, but it's still a very good lens. So I think it does make sense not to spend too much on lenses that you're not going to use a lot.
Yep, absolutely correct. And we got another couple of one. Then we're gonna talk about another lens that I think is still very, very awesome in 2025. So, which one was that? Look, I did see it earlier. Oh, Chuck said that the 40 to 150 f4. Yes, and yes, yes. This lens is cool. Again, it's for the form factor. You're getting the same weather sealing as a pro lens, and you got the reach, and you got a compact form factor, and it's not extortion amount of money, and you're getting a great deal of stuff for the money.
I think it's amazing. The only question I would ask Chuts, does he feel that the bokeh is just a little bit busy with that lens? It's a little busy. It's not normally something I bother about, but that's the only thing I notice about that lens. That and the fact I always forget you have to unretract it before you can use it. I always forget that.
Well, for me, that lens bokeh was never really my concern, because every time I use that lens is mainly for my travel photography. When I do travel photography, I actually stop the lens down quite a bit to get the depth of view. So I rarely see subject separation. So I just basically try to compress everything and then trying to shoot at f8 or f11.
Yeah, I think my sample was a little bit weird as well. It seemed to have some inconsistency across the frame, which kind of came and went. That's quite odd. Interesting. Yeah, I think the 40 to 150 f4 definitely deserves more credit, like the 12 to 45 f4.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If only system would do something especially useful, like maybe I know there's the 8 to 25 f4. That's fairly big lens. I'd like something like an 8 to 16 f4. It's just a bit smaller, but still that kind of pro weather sealed quality.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that's missing in the range.
Yeah. I'm really hoping that OM system will continue to refine and weather seal a lot of their prime lenses and also the smaller lenses, like you said, because that's where the micro four Thor's strength are. Lenses have to be small, rugged, especially in today's environment. People don't mind paying just a little bit more, like 50, £100 more just to get a weather seal version. And a lot of the Olympus lenses in the old days are already good enough, even in 2025, and optically we're talking about. So like all they need to do is just like the 17 and 25, make a Mark II version, weather seal them, better built, like full metal body. It's already a great lens, so it just make them better. So I think that still scopes for OM system to make a bunch of Mark II lenses. The only one or two lenses that, like you already mentioned, the 12 maybe, refine it a little bit optically, make it a little bit sharper in the corners. That would be nice. Making weather sealed as well, so that would become a very good prime lens. Because I personally like the focal length. The 12mm is actually a very good focal length to use. It's not very niche, it still can be a general lens on a daily basis, can be a daily carry when you want to just have a one wide lens walking around the street.
I think it's a good focal length to stop at in some ways, because you can go wide, you can get more in the frame. It's great if you're doing travel photography, photographing tall buildings when you can't get very far away.
Yeah.
The only issue is with using even wider focal lengths is you have to keep the camera level.
Yeah.
Because you really start running into problems with perspective distortion. Yeah. It's all very well photographing the Eiffel Tower from across the street and getting it all in, but you have to tilt the camera so much that the distortion becomes just ugly, really. Yeah. So it's a balance, and I think 24mm is probably as far as you can go without starting to struggle with that kind of perspective distortion too much.
Yep.
I have recently rebought the Olympus 9mm fisheye, the body cap lens.
Okay.
It's 9mm, I think so.
Yeah. The
That
F8.
is an interesting example, because if you keep the camera completely level, the horizon's straight, you only
Yep.
get the fisheye effect further away from the center of the image. So yeah, I think wide angle lenses in general, especially for architecture, hence why I've got these Laowa shift lenses,
Yep.
it does become difficult. You can get more in, but you have to accept you're going to get a lot more perspective distortion when you do
Yeah.
it, because of how
Yeah.
much you're tilting the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll persevere. I'll persevere on the. I'll persevere with the 12. But I do miss the 10, because that was just excellent. So
Too
we'll
many
see.
choices.
We'll see.
Too many choices
I
there.
know. That's the
Yeah.
trouble.
That's the trouble for all of us photographers, right? You know, there's so many lenses out there, and how many can you use at the end of the day? Now I've got way too many. I just don't know which one I want to pick up next. So that's my trouble.
Same with me and cameras. I've got too many cameras, too few photographs. Here's another interesting one. I'm not going to say it's an all-time classic, but I think it's
Yeah.
interesting. It's a Canon RF 15 to 30.
Yeah.
So it's actually quite wide and quite usefully wide. But again,
Yeah.
it relies so heavily on digital corrections that you can't really use it without them. So fortunately, if you're a Capture One user, there is a profile for this lens.
Right.
So
right.
that gets you out of a bit of trouble, but it's just what Canon does. It won't embed correction profiles in the raw files. Very annoying. But that's a good lens. I think Canon's consumer lenses are a lot better than people think they are. They think only the L series lenses are any good, but that's not. I don't think that's true.
That's a misconception as well. I mean, like
I think so.
Like I already said earlier about the Viltrox lens that we talked about, the 85 f2. If you look at how lens makers make their lenses, usually, you know, they optically they are almost, you know, I would say 90% compared to each other. You know, does it worth double the money for that kind of increase in optical performance? Probably not. The only thing that they are charging you more is usually the build. You know, the features that it has with the lens. They may throw in a couple of nice, very exotic elements into it, you know, to make it a little bit more expensive. But you know, for the untrained eyes, I would say like people wouldn't even notice the difference between, you know, all the consumer level lenses all the way to the highest level lenses. If let's say all of them shoot f4, I don't think anyone would be able to tell the difference. So like, the really only separations is you got bigger aperture size usually with the higher end lenses. You do maybe have a full metal body instead of a plastic body. You may have a couple of extra function buttons on the body, whether you use them or not. That's another thing. They just give it to you anyway. You know.
I think function buttons and custom control rings like Canon has are good if that's the only brand you use.
Yeah.
But for somebody like me who uses 3 or 4 different brands, you won't remember. You'll go from a lens with no custom functions to one which has custom functions, but your mind is always going to be on the simplest mode of operation. And, you know, I can set up the custom function rings on my Canon RF lenses one week and forget what I did next week or why I did it. Or it's not what I thought I'd done. And it just becomes an unnecessary complication for me.
It's funny you mentioned that because, you know, like I had a question like recently, people asking about custom memory, custom function on the camera body, you know, the C1, C2 function on the remote dial. And they asked me, do I use them? I actually said, no, I actually don't use them. But don't you trying to, like, you know, because you do different type of things, right? Don't you just want something to remember your settings, things like that? Not really. I actually just change the dials, you know, on the fly when I do things.
Yeah.
I find it actually quicker than I trying to remember which C1 and C2 was, you know.
Exactly. And this is exactly the situation I've been in with custom controls. You know, for example, one week I might go out and do some HDR exposure bracketing. So I set one of the custom settings up for burst shooting, aperture priority, so that you don't get any kind of aperture changes through the sequence. And that'd be it. And the bracketing increments. So I've done that. Next week, I think do you know what? I remember from some other time I set that custom function up to do a different thing, and I remember that one. not the one I did last week. So when I switch it over, I think, oh hell, this is all wrong. This is not the one I wanted. I've changed it and I forgot. It's like programmable function buttons on cameras. If it's the only camera you use, you might remember.
Yep.
But if you use several cameras, I don't think you will.
No, at the moment I'm rotating 4 different cameras at the moment, so that's why I would not remember any of the custom functions buttons, anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, as I just need to find out how I change the ISO, how I change the AM, the AF, and that's all I care about.
I mean, it's very old school, but this is why I prefer cameras to have buttons that are marked for particular jobs.
Yes.
So this one's got a button for ISO, a button for white balance, a button for something else. You can't customize them, but you know where they are, and you get used to it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Maybe we'll look at a couple of more comments, and we're starting to wind up today. Lawful exposure and talked about 56 and 75 millimeters. I think Sigma. You're referring the 56 as the Sigma f1.4 earlier, and also the 75. I believe the 75 would be referring to the Olympus 75 1.8, if I'm not mistaken. Both of them are great lenses, and the 56 Sigma. I mean, Sigma has been doing great lenses for the past 10 years now. I mean, and I couldn't say the same thing 20 years ago. Sigma lenses were really horrible, 20 years ago. But I think since 10 years ago, all their releases were really spectacular. I mean, ever since they...
It's that global vision switch, wasn't it? When they went to contemporary and art and sport.
Yeah, and they've done a great job. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, I actually have to say, you probably can't get a bad lens from Sigma these days. Like, no matter whatever they release, you buy them, you know that you're going to get certain type of quality. That you shouldn't really worry too much about sharpness, the distortions, and the functions of it, everything like that. And this is another thing we never quite talk about, right? Like you don't need always to stick with the native lenses, and if you have other brands, you should really try them, because you might be missing a lot of these goodness out there.
I think I'd say the same for Tamron if you're a Sony shooter. So I bought this for my Sony kit. I do not like super zoom lenses. I've never used a good one, except for this one. It's the Tamron 28-200 f2.8 to 5.6. It wasn't particularly dear. I think it's been over 500. But this is the only super zoom lens I've used which is sharp at full zoom. So I can use this at 200 millimeters and it's good. That's never happened before. And I've used a lot of these things. So that's a good one.
It is true, right? Not many super zoom lenses are actually good. Majority of them do suffer, especially the long end, and
I mean, from my when I was most busy doing lens testing, I tried so many of them. I formed the general feeling that you use the first half of the zoom range and avoid the second half. It's just how they are. And then the other one I really rate from Tamron is this, again, in Sony E-mount. I'm not sure. I think it's only E-mount, this one. It's the 20-40 2.8. And that is quite an amazing lens. It's only 2 times zoom range, but it's the focal range I spend most of my time in. But what's extraordinary about this lens is it's really well made for the money, but also it is an absolutely stellar performer. Edge to edge, whatever focal length, whatever aperture. So I think you mentioned Sigma. I'd give a shout out to Tamron as well. Though they don't cover as many formats, but
no. I mean, I for those who may remember that I actually did a not a review, but a kind of talk about 2 camera lenses that I tested, the 28-70 2.8, and also the 35-150 f2 to 2.8.
Oh, that one, yes, I've not used that one.
It's spectacular. I was so close to buying that lens, the 35-150, because it literally covers everything that I do on a daily basis for my portrait work. You know, like it just does. It just covers the whole thing. Fully weather seal, premium build, image quality is fantastic. The only thing that kind of got me to think twice was the weight. That lens was so heavy, you know, like when you mount it on a full frame camera, you know, the full frame camera is already quite heavy, and then you mount it together. The combination of it is like 2 and a bit kilo, 2.5 kilo. It may not sound a lot, but if you shoot it for 3 hours straight, your wrist is gonna hurt or your neck is gonna hurt. You start feeling the weight. And that was my problem and my challenge. And as much as I love that lens, I just couldn't really bring myself into buying that lens. And also the price is relatively high, but I wouldn't say is bad price for what it is. But it's still like about £1,400 for a Nikon Z mount. For the E mount, I think you can get it for £1,200. So it's not exactly a cheap lens either.
Pretty exotic specifications. So
yes,
but I know what you mean about weight, because my old favorite, my D800, my Nikon 24-120, that's 2.5 kilos.
Yeah.
So I had to pick it up to show somebody. But if you're going to carry it around in a hand all day, you're going to need a hand splint at the end of it.
Unfortunately, I'm not rich enough to have a full-time assistant or a porter to hold everything for me. Unfortunately.
If there are any DSLR fans out there, do consider older Nikons if you don't have one. My D800, I think, cost little under 400, and the 24-120, barely used, I think was about 200, which is silly money, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
silly.
Yeah. You know, they're still cameras and lenses at the end of the day. They still take great pictures. And to be honest, if you don't ask for all the mirrorless goodness like IBIS and things, you know, some of these older cameras are fantastically good value for money now, and you still get fantastic image quality as well. Like the D850. Even the D800, 750, they all have fantastic sensors, you know.
See how cheap the D850 is at the moment, and the D7, the D850 is about, I think it's about 1,700 body only. I know. I'm trying not to think about it, Jimmy. I'm trying not to think about it, but I can't get it out of my mind. But the weight does become an issue. That's where it's even more important to have a body that has a good grip if you're going to use bigger lenses, I think.
Yeah. One last comment here, maybe. Owen saying that the 12-100 Ollie is meant to be good. It is good, though. And
never at the discount I would like it to be out there.
It's one of those Swiss Army knife lenses, and if you just want one lens that's kind of does everything for travel, for street, for videoing as well. So like if you shoot video and stills, that lens literally covers everything. It's got lens IS. It works well with Olympus OM system camera for dual IS. The weather seal, menu clutch, you name it, he's got everything. He's got the focal range 12-100, you know, like so 24-200 millimeters equivalent, constant f4 aperture. It's
a big old boy though, isn't it?
It's a bit heavy. But if you use it on an OM1 or EM1 bodies, that's totally fine. If you're only starting to feel a bit awkward when you start using like a EM5 or OM5 bodies or pen bodies, and then you find it, no, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, it just doesn't work on those. But yeah, I've been keeping my eyes open, but I can never quite get a deal that makes me want to press the button. Yeah, and I guess my Tamron on the Sony is an equivalent to that, more or less. So I would just shoot with that when I needed that kind of range. But something not quite related to lenses, I thought I'd mention that in the early days with Olympus selling points, we never took them very seriously, did we? Well, the journalists in general, like supersonic wave filter, for example.
Oh my God, that is so good.
If you want to know how good it is, shoot with the Sony Alpha body, because those things, there's more fibers on my center than I've got on my carpet. It's a mess.
I think in general as well, not just Sony body, my Nikon full frame sensor covered with dust as well. It's hard to avoid them.
Yeah, it is. It is quite hard. And a strange thing I have with my Canon setup is that the 15 to 30 I showed you earlier, the rear element is really so close to the sensor that if you get a speck on the rear element, it can show up on your images as a blob, which I haven't seen before, and it can be quite a big blob. So
yeah.
But yeah, supersonic wave filter. I thought when Olympus was pushing that in the early days, I thought whatever. But yeah, you don't get dust, do you?
No. I mean, I remember when they first announced that technology, when I said, oh, well, it could be a gimmick, right? And when they showed that video and it shakes off the moisture, I thought, oh, just a gimmick video to make, But seriously, now after 10 years using it, I would say, gosh, that's so good.
And the other thing I'd say is that all the lenses, even from the start, were fast and quiet autofocus.
Yeah.
And you can't, that's still not true of everybody else's lenses, especially the cheaper ones.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, not many people have tried them, but if you haven't, if you're listening, do give it a go. You may be surprised, and you might hook into this that system as well. You're not necessarily you have to change system. You're just adding to it. I mean, it's still I think personally, it's a great travel system. And also for those specific usage like wildlife photography, if you're into it as an amateur, I think you can't get a better system for than the OM system kit, because the long focal range lenses are relatively affordable compared to full frame equivalent. You get better build, you get better weather resistance. Overall, as a package, you are saving yourself at least 60% of the price if you go for full frame. So that could be a deal breaker for some. Save those money and go for a nice wildlife trip, to Antarctica or something, to safari. You got enough budget for that, right? Imagine you buying these equivalent pro range lenses on the full frame body, either Nikon or Canon or Sony. You're spending like 10 grand on a couple of lenses, maybe even more on some of these tele lenses, and the body, you probably want a slightly faster body to capture some of the action. So you start looking at the A9 and A1, the R1 series from Canon, faster camera body.
Very expensive, very quickly.
You are looking at probably about 20-30 grand budget to buy those stuff all together, and you can get similar kind of speed and all the focal range coverage on an OM system for about, I don't know, 10 grand. You can get it all in. Get a nice lens, nice body. It can get it all in. So it is about 20 grand saving if you kind of calculate roughly.
I'm looking at it from the opposite point of view as well, as for travel or street photography where you don't want to be conspicuous. This is my favorite, the EP7. I know you can't really get them in the States, maybe other places too, but an older pen as well would be good, because the screen flips up. It doesn't come out to the side. When it comes out to the side, it's all a bit obvious. But when it flips up, you can just have to think at waist level. You've got really fast touch shutter, means so you don't have to put it to your eye at all. You can just be as inconspicuous as you like. Yeah, and it's not an expensive camera.
Or the EM10 Mark IV, it's
of course,
it's another
that
great
flips
option.
Up, doesn't it? Yeah.
That flips up screen as well. Yes.
Because side pivot screens aren't always better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that if OM system is listening, make us another camera with a flip up screen. That I think a lot of people are asking for that. If they want to make a photo-centric camera, people are asking for a flip up screen than a flip out screen.
Was the EM1 Mark I a flip up?
Yes, the original Mark I was flip up. Yes. In fact, all the Olympus camera, the early Olympus camera, all flip up, and then until they make the EM1 Mark II, that's when the flip out screen starts to come out, and then it's okay if you do a lot of video shooting, but I do agree that flip-up screen is actually very handy for waist-level shooting, and for a lot of people who like to do street, like you said, you just want to be a little bit more discreet. Some of these waist-level things is actually pretty good.
Yeah, especially if you've got a good touch shutter feature, which is reliable and quick, which they do. So.
Absolutely. Right. Okay.
Right.
I guess we
Dog
are
wants a
going
tea.
to we're gonna wind down now, and so it's a nice chat today, and nothing quite special. We just had some fun talk about lenses, but if you have any favorite lenses of yours and you haven't mentioned, please remember to contribute in the comment section below. We probably pick up some of the lenses maybe for some future chat as well. We're going to do another roundup maybe perhaps once the 2025 is over, because I still actually got a couple of lenses to review, so you never know, those might actually beat my current best standing, and we shall see what happens, because they are coming in hopefully in the next few weeks for the remainder of the 2025, so I should be able to testing another few lenses just before the year end. And you never know, the standing might change altogether. But I'm hoping to see some more from OM System though. Although having said that, I mean, I think some of you guys already mentioned about Lumix lenses earlier, and I'm hoping Lumix will also make some lenses at some point. They seem to kind of stop altogether now for Micro Four Third. They're just focusing really on the S-line lenses.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame. A bit of a shame. We shall see. We shall see. But I know that OM System are very busy at the moment. They are going to have a few launches next year. This year they've been really busy.
Okay.
I think they are quite successful this year, to be quite honest. This from products and lenses that they launched this year, and judging by the sales figures, I think they are on a very good direction at the moment. If they continue this trend for the next few years, they're back in profit. That means they're going to start expanding, and when they start doing that, and I think they're going to be in a good position to kind of recapture some of the market shares that has been lost for the past few years. And but only time could tell. But I'm hoping that more people will try the system, and I'm always a big fan of Micro Four Third, even though I use other systems now. Yeah.
Get them to release the EP7 in other territories. I think they'd sell loads in the States, but
possibly
they don't distribute them in the States.
It's the tariff at the moment. If you want to add the tariff, I'm not entirely sure that what's going to happen. They might eat. Yeah.
No, we'll see. We'll see.
Unless they make a factory in the US.
yeah, they could do that.
Yeah. But unlikely to do that. But hoping to see some other new stuff next year. And before we speak too far about 2026, let's finish 2025 first. Sure. Okay, guys. Thank you very much for joining us, and we're gonna have another chat again next week. If you anything that you would like to talk about, and anything that you fancy talking about, whether it's gonna be photography or gear or anything like that, please let us know in the comment section below. And maybe we can have another photography chat at some point. Something more deeper. Like something more educational, something that I'm not sure how many of you would like to listen to that, but let's see.
Good. Look forward to it.
Okay, guys. All right. Thanks a lot, and I will see you all
next time.
Bye now.
Bye.